My name's Geeta Gordon, and I was actually born in England. I was born and raised there, but my ancestors come from India. Today I am going to start at the very basics. So bread is a big centerpiece in any culture. So I'm going to make roti, and I'm just going to do a dried, fried like a potato dish. So for the dough, I've used it's a special flour that you get in the store. You can buy it in the regular grocery stores too. They sell it for roti. So that's all I did. I mixed a little bit of oil and some hot water and let it set for a bit. Okay, so I was the oldest of 4 siblings, and my mom always needed help in the kitchen. So I started making the breads that we're going to make later. I was cooking since I was 9 years old. So I would help her in the kitchen, doing the prep at first, then help as much as I can at the stove, as much as I was allowed to do. That was, first I started getting really interested in it. All girls, like all Indian girls, when I was growing up, must learn how to make these, because it was part of our culture, where if you went somewhere, they would say, oh, you don't know how to make this, because you're supposed to know, right? My dad moved when he was about 18. He wanted to go to university in England, so he went to Oxford University. So I was born in a small town in the north of England, Bolton, near Manchester. And so I went to school there, I was raised there, my siblings also. So I finished college, and then I got married in England. But it was a Canadian that came there, and I met the Canadian. And that's how I ended up coming to Canada. By the time I got my papers and everything ready to move to Canada, I was 3 months pregnant with my first child. And so I moved to a new country. I had no friends, didn't know my doctor, didn't know anybody at all. It was very strange. I hated it at first for the longest time. We lived near Toronto. And so a couple of years later, we moved to St. Thomas, and I've been here 40 years now. Okay, so we're doing a dried fried curry. And so I'm gonna start off with oil. You can use any kind of oil. I prefer olive and canola blend. This is a spice box, which every Indian household would have. And so I'm going to use mustard seeds, and they'll pop. So as soon as they popped, you put the curry leaves in and a little bit of turmeric. Now, this is just going to be a dry, so I'm not going to use like garlic or anything like that in this one. So I just use the dried spices, a little bit of turmeric, a little bit of garam masala, some red chili powder, dried coriander, which is just the dried cilantro for people that don't know, and a little bit of salt. I've added Canadian recipes, British. I've mixed British and Indian with the Canadian and things like that. Even Mexican dishes I'll turn them into Indian flavors and things like that. Well, growing up in England in the early 60s, there wasn't no colored people, there was nobody around. So culture was a big thing, like at home. And then, of course, growing up, you want to fit with your peers at school and everything else. So it's like growing up in a dual culture. I learned to speak Indian, and I can understand it from my parents. I taught both my boys to speak and understand, so they can do that also. It is important to keep some of the culture, and even today as I'm older now, that it's important. And my youngest, he's interested in cooking. So he does, and when he was away at university, he wrote down all the recipes that he needed, and he would actually cook and try, and even today he tries new things out by himself, and so I'm really proud of him for that. My granddaughter she's 6. She's taking cooking classes already. She loves cooking. And she was saying to me one day, Ma, she calls me Ma, she goes, Ma, could you teach me how to cook when I grow older?